Hello students, this is Biólogo Manolo. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This time we're going to work on how to make a good conclusion. I really hope that you find this information interesting, and why don't we just go ahead and start. You know, students, when a teacher evaluates your activities, conclusions will always have high considerations. That means that when a teacher is evaluating a report or an activity or a homework that you just made, the conclusion will show your teacher important information about you, and because of that, he or she might give you a good or not that good grade. So, why is that so? You know, students, conclusions are learning evidences, meaning that they show if you have accomplished to understand a certain topic as well as the degree of which you have achieved it. That means, students, that a conclusion is a good way for a teacher to know if what he or she is trying to teach you, you are actually learning it. That's why conclusions are really important. Consider, students, that a conclusion, a summary, and a narrative are completely different things. And for that, I have an example. You all know the story of the Red Riding Hood. And as a narrative, students, I would say that a long, long time ago in this village, there was this girl. Everybody knew her as the Red Riding Hood, and one day her mother told her to take some meals inside a basket and take those to the forest and take them to her grandmother. And on the way, the girl decided to disobey her mother and took a different way. So if you continue with the story, students, then you would have a narrative. A summary would be, in this story, the Red Riding Hood, which is actually the main character, she decided not to follow her mom's orders to take the meals to her grandmother in a certain, following a certain way, and because of that bad decision, the girl faces some trouble, but at the end, the story has a happy ending. That would be a summary. And for a conclusion, I would say that kids should always follow their parents' instructions in order to avoid problematic situations. That would be a conclusion. I hope that you notice the difference, and in the three cases, I'm speaking about the same story, the Red Riding Hood. Your conclusions will be the best ones as long as they are precise and concise, and not necessarily the longest ones. A good conclusion might have a few lines only. That is, you don't have to make all the time long, long conclusions. Short and good conclusions are the best. Best conclusions have good writing and a revised spelling, in addition to a correct use of exclamation and punctuation marks. That's another advice I could give you. And if you use electronic devices, students, use them for support since they can assist you with both automatic correction and translation. But remember that they are not fully trustworthy. That's important because you may follow a wrong direction whenever writing a conclusion. Let's continue. When you're making a conclusion, take your time. Don't put it into a rush. Focus yourself and write down the most important concepts. Put them all together and order them afterwards in such a way you can understand them better. And remember, you will improve your time with practice. So don't be discouraged if you take a long time to make conclusions at first, but with time and with practice, you will improve and you will also move faster. And I can assure you that. Your conclusions should be concrete and complete. Express facts. That's really important. Facts. And most of all, show your new learning. Always ask yourself, am I expressing my new learning? Always ask that question to yourself. Your conclusions shouldn't express either your opinion or become a narrative of what was done in class. And for that reason, students, don't you ever include phrases in your conclusions such as I liked, I found really interesting that, teacher said or explained that, I already understood that. Now it's more clear to me that I reaffirmed what I already knew about. I've never imagined that. Remember, avoid those phrases. They are just terrible to include in a conclusion. Don't you ever include in your conclusions any information you're not absolutely sure of. You could have a mistake that would affect your evaluation. If we consider that conclusions are to express your new learning, if you include in a conclusion information that is incorrect, then your teacher will notice that you didn't learn a thing. Make absolutely sure you have no doubt whatsoever and avoid writing in the singular form of the first person, that is, I. Read and verify your conclusion before you handed it into your teacher. That's also very important. Make sure everything is correct, everything is fine, and then hand it to your teacher. Keeping all these advices in mind will guarantee you the best possible grades in all your school reports. See? Only A pluses. Now we will conduct a short session on brainstorming. And for this, we have to consider, when I'm done making and reviewing my conclusion, before I hand it to my teacher, what are the questions I should answer myself? So let's take a moment, let's pause the video and work in class on this brainstorming activity and session. Okay? Okay, students, so now we're done with your brainstorming session. Now we will start doing some exercises and we'll see different conclusions. And I'm hoping that you, wherever you are, would give me an idea of the conclusion I'm showing you, if it's a good one or a bad one. So let's start with the first exercise. In science, I should follow teachers' criteria indicated during class to obtain good grades throughout the whole school year. You think it's a good conclusion or a bad conclusion? I have memes for you. The first meme says, one does not simply get credit for incomplete work. This, students, is an incomplete conclusion. Next one. As it was explained by the teacher, I learned that making good conclusions is important to study science. Good one or bad one? Let's see. Really? Of course it's a bad one. It's incomplete, absolutely incomplete. Next question. Next conclusion. Teacher seems to be a nice person and with a big knowledge. I'll try to do my best in this class, even though it won't be easy for me since I don't like science very much. The explanation about conclusions was very interesting. What do you think, students? Good one or bad one? What elements make this conclusion to be a good one or a bad one? Let's continue. Oh, you sweet talker. Thanks for the good thoughts you have about me, but they don't really express what you learn. So I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for facts for your learning, not to know if you like me or not. So let's continue. Next conclusion. Oh my God, this is long, but I will read it anyway. A conclusion must show in a concise and precise way, without so much roll, what have been for me the new knowledge that I have acquired throughout the study of each of the topics. A good conclusion serves to demonstrate the fulfillment of the objectives of the subject, to have a good wording where care is taken about spelling and the correct use of punctuation and admiration. The professor commented that a conclusion is the evidence that we have reached a new learning in our classwork, and therefore the conclusions will have a high weighting in the qualifications of our activities. The professor also commented that to write our conclusions, he suggests that he write down our main ideas after reviewing the topic and clearing up all our doubts, and that since we are satisfied with them, we put them in an order that is coherent, intelligent, and give them a writing as if we were briefly narrating or summarizing those main concepts that are what we learn. I like this activity a lot because I can apply it in the subject of science, but also in other subjects. It is interesting how by learning new things we can acquire more security in ourselves and also obtain better grades. Good conclusion or bad conclusion? Students, it's really noticeable that in this conclusion, the corrector and translator were used. Terribly bad used, because the conclusion was not reviewed at all. But also it's a very long conclusion. I would say that it's more a narration, a narrative of the whole process of the explanation during class. So because of that, if you could stop telling pointless stories, that would be great. Next conclusion. I reinforced my knowledge on how to make a good conclusion. I found the topic to be really interesting, and I'm sure I will learn lots of new stuff in this class. What do you guys think? I, 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 I. I've got nothing to lose. It's just me against the world, baby. Only I. Please remember not to use the first person of the present tense. Next, conclusion. The professor explained to us how to make good conclusions for our work. He told us how to organize our ideas by writing down the points that we consider to be the most important, because that is what he can show him if we learn the subject well. He projected some conclusions on the board for us to understand better. We saw many examples, and with that it became clear to me the importance that we have to make good conclusions, and that is something that I liked a lot because I had never thought of it that way. I didn't know him, but he seems to be a good teacher. Seriously? You consider it to be a good conclusion? Please, just make it stop. A lot of mistakes were done there. I hope that you guys have identified them. Let's continue. A good conclusion should fulfill following requirements: to be very clear, to have good writing and spelling, to express the main concepts for a particular topic, to show new learning after studying a topic in class, to include correct information only. By following these steps, it is most likely to obtain high grades in science class. Good or bad conclusion, students? You did it. You're one of us now. Of course, it's a good conclusion. Next conclusion. If I follow teacher's indications, I will get good grades. Good one or bad one? Maybe it's correct, but it's very short. Is that all you've got? Wow. Next conclusion. I learned to make conclusions fulfilling teacher's requirements for science class. Again, this is really short, not really incorrect, but very, very short. Oh God, how many times do I have to explain it? Express your new learning. Last conclusion. My conclusions will show teachers what my new learnings are. That's why it's so important that they are clear for them, and that way my activities will get good grades. Good one or bad one? You're trying to tell me that's all you got? It's a good conclusions, but you won't get an A+, maybe a little lower grade. And finally, students, it is your turn now. Write down and submit your own conclusion on what you have just learned during this class. Your work does count for evaluation. So, good luck and give me your best. Thank you. I'm Biólogo